Today we're going to take a look at another Superflex rookie mock draft. This one's 2 rounds. It's sent in by a subscriber. And like how we always do it, we go pick by pick and we talk about the players. Hit that subscribe button right now because we're going to keep you engaged with your Dynasty rookie drafts right here and the NFL draft as well. But we got to start with our first pick. Remember, it's Superflex. It's the 101. First pick off the board. And it's a trendy topic right now. And it's the same guy in every mock draft that we've covered with no change. That being said, you have a good idea who it is. We're going to talk about him real quick. And that's Caleb Williams, the 101 in Superflex. Pretty much locked in. If he goes 102, I'll be shocked. But I'm not surprised because there's thousands of leagues. And there's going to be a league here and there where Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to 101. That being said, Caleb Williams locked in there, and he's going to be playing for the Chicago Bears more than likely, unless a Godfather offer happens or a Godfather deal. He's locked in there. He's going to hold value in Dynasty for quite some time, even if he has a slow ramp up during his rookie season, because Caleb Williams has been thought of as a generational talent at the quarterback position for a long time. And the Superflex juice is real. Now we're going to the 102. And I can tell you about this pick right now that it's like the other drafts at the 102. Like every single one we covered, they're still rolling with this pick. This is a different batch of guys doing this draft. And they're very similar to the other batches of guys who are doing the drafts. But let's take a look here at the 102. Marvin Harrison Jr. He's locked in as one of the top wide receivers in the draft. I say one of the top. Malik Neighbors. Some people have Rome Odunze. Pick your poison. My top 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I like them both. 102 though, Marvin Harrison Jr. You're good to go. You don't have to worry. High probability that he's going to hit at the NFL level. Doesn't mean he will, but it's a very, very, very high probability that he will deliver something for you at the NFL level. And that's all we want from our rookie draft picks. He's going to hold a ton of value too, because he's been getting hype for years. And that's what we should expect. But it's time to move on to the 103. The next pick off the board. Remember, it's Superflex and it's Drake May. And this has been pretty standard. We are looking at him more than likely getting drafted by the Commanders. Has a good arm on him. Has been thought of as a first-round prospect for quite some time now. Has some upside. And he's a player that you're looking to at Superflex to hold that quarterback value for you. But we got to move on to the 104 because I can't have you falling asleep. The next player off the board, is it Bowers? Is it quarterback? Is it Neighbors? Maybe Rome Odunze sneaking in there. Are they going to go crazy in this draft? We shall see. But the next player off the board, Malik Neighbors. And I love this guy. Generational prospect, top tier upside. He's going to be building some steam here soon, especially in ADP. I mean, he's got a lot right now. The market's not really sleeping on him, but the upside's coming in the value. The upside's coming in the value, and he's a top 10 pick in the regular draft. Going to be a top pick in Dynasty rookie drafts, and that makes a lot of sense, but we got to move on. Remember, it's Superflex. We still got a tight end lurking that a lot of people like. Rome Odunze's on the board. Who's it going to be? Jaden Daniels. Is he still at the 105 if he goes to the Patriots? I want to know that right now. Do you have him around this range if he still goes to the Patriots? It's that Superflex value. If your league's more established, probably more than likely. Even Bryce Young right now is holding value. That being said, at the 105, getting a quarterback drafted high in the first round, that's a good deal. Those 2 wide receivers bumping him down a little bit, that's making him at a palatable cost. Could be a little cheaper too if he goes to a less desirable landing spot, which the odds are saying that for a lot of folks. But we got to move on to our next pick here. We only have a few top end prospects left. Bowers, Odunze, another quarterback maybe. Rome Odunze coming off the board. Guys got a good route tree. We covered that on live yesterday. Check out that live, but we'll do another live covering route trees from the PFF Draft Guide. But the 106 here, coming off the board. Good yards per route ran. Good combine, good metrics all around. Very productive, 1,400 yards. He's up there in talent. A top-tier wide receiver prospect. When you look at Rome Odunze and the other 2 wide receivers are coming off the board and you're getting him, don't think of him as the wide receiver 3. Think about getting a wide receiver 1 in any other draft class. Categorize him as that because usually on any other draft class, he's the first wide receiver selected. But we're moving on to the next pick, the 107. Let me know your guess here because you probably got it. And it's Brock Bowers. He's getting that tight end love. We've been waiting for him to come out of the draft since 2021. Are you willing to select him here, or are you going to pivot to another position? Because the Chiefs are lurking in the back half of that first round. If they select the wide receiver, is that going to take over Bowers here? If Brian Thomas Jr. goes to the Bills, does that take over Bowers here? Let me know. Are you waiting on tight end? Like, if he goes off, are you just going to pay the piper for him? Or if you're trying to buy him on the cheap as he's on the ramp up over these next few years, year and a half, while he's trying to get the tight end position straightened out, while he's trying to learn his role at the NFL level, are you playing strategy with him, or are you just accepting him at face value? I want to hear about that. I want to hear about what you think about Brock Bowers in the comments below. We're moving on to the 108 here. Very interesting pick. This is why you should stay here and watch the rest of the picks because things are going to get interesting. Next pick off the board, J.J. McCarthy. Makes a lot of sense if the buzz is real. We get buzz on quarterbacks every year. Will Levis had it last year. Will Levis getting drafted top 10. Everybody's liking Will Levis. Will Levis looked good at the combine. Will Levis falls in the draft. Malik Willis, we all like him. He's going to be a top 10 pick. Going to change things around. Malik Willis falls. Never heard of again. But then we look at J.J. McCarthy. We catch that buzz. We knew that buzz was coming. I told you it was coming. Months ago, I told you it was coming. And now we're here. Now is it real? We'll find out in the draft. And if it's real, this is probably where he's going to be drafted at. Maybe a little higher. That's the thing. 108. Expect that. Do you want it or not? That's it. Do you want it or not? But that's probably where he's going to be at. Around this range or a little bit higher. If he gets drafted as early as Big Media is saying. But we got to move on to our next player. We're at the 109. Brian Thomas Jr. Come on down. If he goes to the Bills, if he goes to the Chiefs, goes to the quarterback that throws YOLO balls, he's getting bumped up there. He's going to go in the mid to back half of the first round. There's some quarterbacks there that can really buoy his value. If that happens, Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be drafted ahead of the 109 in a lot of leagues. Even with J.J. McCarthy getting that draft value, he's going to get pumped up there a bit. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be hard to do because you also got Rome Odunze and company and Brock Bowers. But that's why I mentioned if Brian Thomas Jr. or another wide receiver gets that back-end first-round draft capital with a good landing spot, him versus Brock Bowers, what are you doing? Considering the tight end spot? That being said, we're moving on to our next pick. We're looking at the 110. This one's going to surprise you, but not really. It really depends on what happens with the NFL draft. Bo Nix. If he gets drafted in the first round, expect him to be drafted in Will Levis territory. Expect that to happen. The market's not too hot on him, but that Will Levis territory, that early second-round pick that he was last year, Bo Nix isn't going to be drafted in the early first round. And we got a stacked rookie draft class. 110, 111, 112, 201, 202, 203, somewhere around there. 110, sure. Really depends on what happens with the other wide receivers. And it really depends on the Superflex juice in your league. And what I'm saying is, if your league is established and you can't trade for quarterbacks and ain't working out, then you may have to bite the bullet. You may have to. However, if they're more liquid, your team just trades like crazy. They don't care about Superflex because I've been in those. I've seen it. I've been in those streets. Then you may want to move on to the next pick, to the next player. But you got to know your league. You got to know how they value players. That's why you submit a lot of offers. Look at those rejections, see what happens. Look at other trades. Know how your league values players. Picks like that matter. Picks like that matter a lot in a league like that. Moving on to the 111 here. And we just got to call the pick here. Troy Franklin, one of my favorite wide receivers in this year's draft. A candidate to get drafted in the back half of the first round. A candidate to go in the second round. He's very crispy, a very good, nuanced route runner with a lot of upside here. Can get downfield, has a good ADOTs. I think his route running is superb. I think he's a very smart player. Good at breaking the zone. I think there's a lot of upside here as well. But we're moving on to the last pick of the first round. And we're just going to pull the trigger here. Xavier Worthy blew up the combine, setting records. We got speed for days. He should be a candidate to get drafted in the first round of rookie drafts. But the thing about Xavier Worthy is we got a jacked wide receiver class. We might get a token running back that gets selected earlier than expected or goes to a better landing spot than expected that might bump him. A quarterback might bump him. We got some variables here in this year's draft. That doesn't mean he's a bad player. He might end up being a better value than expected. That being said, when we look at this first round here, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake May, Malik Neighbors, Jaden Daniels, Rome Odunze, standard, super standard here. Brock Bowers, 107. He's a very pivotal player in the first round because you can set up a lot of strategies with him. Do you take him at face value now? Do you wait a year, trade for him, hoping that his value drops a little bit? Kind of like a Dalton Kincaid. Like his value, he's a little bit more liquid now. He is. It's true. I told you it was going to happen, especially if he has a slow start as a rookie. He's a little bit more liquid. I won't say the value really dropped because there's sunk cost in there, but I'll say he's a little bit more liquid now. Brock Bowers here at the 107 might be more liquid here in 12 to 18 months. You might be able to get him at a cheaper cost. On the flip side of that, if he hits through the roof. But would you want to pay through the roof cost, or do you want to just take the gamble at face value right now? Because we got good wide receivers on the board. Superflex, maybe you want to roll with a quarterback. It really depends on what you want in your strategy, but there's a lot of strategy right now with Brock Bowers. But forget Brock Bowers, and we're rolling to round 2 to look at these guys. Round 2 is going to be very interesting. And our first player off the board, Trey Benson. He killed the combine. He runs with a thickness. He can be productive in the right spot at the NFL level. If you really comb through the tape, you'll find things you don't like, especially with his vision. But his vision's also good because he's very assertive, and he can find the hole. It's just not 100% consistent, but Trey Benson can get it done in the right role. It may take some time. It may take a ramp-up period, but he can be a good asset for fantasy football, especially with that deep speed. But to the 102, next player off the board, we are looking at Ladd McConkey here. A great route runner, hasn't broken out yet in college. That's a major red flag. But if he gets to draft capital, if he's drafted in the top 60, you may forget about that. You may not want to pay it first. You may want the wide receivers to dry up a little bit more. But if he gets good draft capital, a good quarterback, some volume in the offense, you may forego that. But you also want that heavy on your heart as well. At the 202, you're getting a good route runner who I hope in this situation landed in a great spot because that's still high draft capital. 202 in this year's draft is like, what, the 108, 109 in another draft? Like last year prior? That's something you got to think about. These early second-round picks are very valuable. Making the mid-round picks of the second round, very valuable. And you'll see here when we look at the 203, and we're going to pull that up. 203, 80, Mitchell here. Guy can get deep, blew up the combine, big playmaker, creates a lot of separation off his routes. He's a very good wide receiver. You definitely see the talent. He does take some plays off. Definitely does that. He's not perfect. Not the greatest production profile either. There's some red flags here. He's not the perfect process. He's got good length. He's got good ball skills. Could be like a George Pickens, but probably needs to be in the right offense. He's probably not a guy you want to plug anywhere. That's the thing about him. You don't want to plug him anywhere and just hope for the best. I think he's a guy that needs to be in a good spot. But enough about him. To the next pick. Next guy coming off the board here, Braylon Allen. And it's mixed bag on him when you try to get all the opinions on him because the market is sometimes hot and it's sometimes not. And when it was hot, it was a few years ago, especially when he was a freshman on the rise. He's got good top-end speed, but the burst is kind of laggy there. He's got size, but the lack of burst kind of inhibits him to run to his size with the power at the point of contact. But we have a production profile that's very interesting. Wasn't used much as a pass catcher. You saw a ramp up this year, but the offense had some changes, new OC, so it could have been by default more than likely. But I can't say he can't catch passes. Probably more of a guy catching balls in the flat. You're not putting him out in the slot running routes. So he might be able to get you a little bit, but the upside's not really there to where he'll buoy production. But he does have some thickness there. He does have some power. A guy you want to know. And in the second round's a lot better price tag than like the 108 or anything like that. So I can get on board with that a little bit. But to our next pick here, another player coming off the board, Blake Corum. Kind of like Matt Corral, but Blake Corum. And looking at him, he's a lunch pail running back. He's got the thickness. He's got a good BMI. He's shorter and a little bit lower on the weight, but shorter, so he's got good thickness there still. So don't let the 205 fool ya. He's jacked up, rocked up, has as many bench press reps as some of the top offensive linemen in this year's class. His production profile hit its peak in 2022 before the injury, and this year was kind of a ramp up from that injury to the back end of the season. So don't look down at 2023. You got to really know Blake Corum. But he's a guy that coaches love because he gives you more than what's blocked. He runs the play of how it's ran and also has good vision. Doesn't do stupid stuff on the field. And he's a coach's pet player. He's a lunch pail guy, coach's pet player. That might get him results on the field as in snaps, opportunities, and whatnot. But for the whatnot, we're looking at the next player here. Coming off the board here at 206, we're looking at Jonathan Brooks. And you're looking at a very good running back prospect with good pop, can catch the ball in the backfield, can be used in the slot. The thing about him is you're getting an ACL discount here at 206. I've heard some people on the internet talk about that ACL and saying, why pick him up with the ACL and you're not going to have him for half a year? Most of these running backs in this class, you're not going to have for half a year because they're not good. This isn't a great running back class, so you're not going to have them for half the year anyways. You're not. With this running back class, you're just pulling straws. You're praying. You're hoping that one gets some opportunity, that one lands in a good spot here. It's not a great class. You don't have top-end guys. You have a lot of middling guys with some good things on their profile, with some red flags, and you're hoping for the best. Look for 2025 with Brooks. Be patient with him. If you're not a patient player, he's probably not for you. That is my big advice when it comes to Brooks. If you're impatient, move on. And we're moving on to the next pick here. Let's just pull it up here. 207, Roman Wilson. Dude was getting a lot of buzz in draft season, but since we don't have the Senior Bowl anymore, Combine's done. Things are getting quiet. He does have some speed. You can put him on the slot. You can put him on the outside a little bit. Wasn't super production. The production profile is a red flag here. Something to note, but he is from Michigan, so he might have got hardballed. Not hardballed. But still, we're in the middle of the second round. And really depends on the situation. If the situation draft capital is there, then he might be all right because the speed's there, the nuance is there, the separation is also there. He also has a lot of dog in him. But moving on to our next pick, and man, this guy's fallen. He's fallen from grace considering what we saw out of him in mock drafts about 2 months ago. Keon Coleman at 208. 208. We saw him go top 5 in a few mock drafts early January, late December. Now we're down to 208, maybe later, because he's not a separator. He's a big-bodied guy, can win at the catch points. People don't like that. He did okay at the Combine, didn't win the Combine. It's kind of tricky numbers there, good burst score metrics, but the 40 time wasn't really there, but we got good length. Keon Coleman really needs to go to the right spot for the production, for the upside, for the value. But if you like him, you gotta love the discount right now. That's the one thing about him. If you like him, you gotta love the discount. But at 209, one of my favorite players is coming off the board. I like this discount. I like this price tag. We're talking about Marshawn Lloyd. I think we got upside for days. I think we get drafted on day 2. I like the size adjusted athleticism. I love the tape. I love the value here at 209. I think he belongs in the top tier running backs. The top tier is not an A tier stud tier, though. It's just a tier that says you're better than the other running backs. Not a great running back class. I would not regard him as a top running back in any other class but this one. But this is a good running back that can still deliver production for you. Kind of like a Rachaad White was. He was a good running back for the NFL, good production. But when you stack him up to a Bijan or a Jameer with their profiles, it doesn't stack up. Same thing with like a Lloyd or any of the top guys in this year's class. They just don't stack up to the top, and it's kind of murky, and you got to get the situation right. But Marshawn Lloyd, though, we got speed, we got pop, we've proven to catch balls out of the backfield. We have some upside. I like him a lot. I'm all in. Second round is great. I think he should be moving up to the second round, but I want to pay a third round price tag like we were doing a month ago. Well, that's not real life anymore. Moving on to our next pick, 210, Michael Penix. The quarterback juice is real. I know it feels icky. I know this pick got the ick, but still, Michael Penix, you got to pull trigger on quarterbacks. You got to take gambles on quarterbacks. I'm surprised more quarterbacks ain't jumping up here in the back half, but we are jacked to the gills at wide receiver, and we're trying to figure out the running back position. Michael Penix, quarterback love, that's all I can say, and I can understand. Right spot, maybe he gets draft capital. I'm not hearing much about that, but maybe he does. But moving on to our next pick, 211 here, Brendan Rice. Very assertive route runner, has the NFL bloodline. Brendan Rice does have some upside. He's very assertive at the catch point, breaking off his routes. A very good wide receiver, also right fit, could make him a very glorious asset. Definitely not fading him. But to the last pick off the board, Xavier Legette. Come on down. Xavier Legette is a hard wide receiver to evaluate here because his upside is through the roof due to his size-adjusted athleticism. Wasn't asked to run a full route tree at South Carolina, but we get to the Senior Bowl. He demonstrates that he possibly can or should and would. And then we weren't really productive until 2023, so the production profile and the age isn't great. But we got good size-adjusted athleticism. That size-adjusted athleticism has been lacking in a lot of drafts lately. So NFL teams are wanting that, considering most NFL teams are good at those 6 foot, 200-pound wide receivers, a $180 to 205 range, wide receivers, those separators. And they kind of do need a big guy, spread the ball to. So the right situation, this guy could be the sneaky play. There's got to be a sneaky wide receiver that bites us. There has to be. That guy that we look at and we're like, I see where he could hit, but those red flags. Who could be that sneaky wide receiver? That is my main question out of this draft. Who is it? Who is it? There is going to be a sneaky wide receiver, and it could be a bust. It could be a sneaky bust. It could be one of the top wide receivers busting all over our face. But we are moving on. Recapping round 2, Trey Benson coming off the board at 201. The highest running back as of late. We did get some first-round running backs early January. Ladd McConkey, separator. You got to watch where he goes. A.D. Mitchell, upside through the roof. We got the running back run, like I've been saying. Middle of the second round, you'll be seeing a running back run. Keon Coleman keeps falling. Marshawn Lloyd's my boy. Michael Penix, because quarterbacks got to go in Superflex. Brendan Rice and Xavier Legette finishing off the back end of the second round. Quick look at the first round. Pretty standard through the first 7 picks. J.J. McCarthy's jumping up there. Brian Thomas Jr. is there. Maybe higher if he goes in the right spot. Bo Nix is going to go somewhere if he gets drafted in the first round. Troy Franklin, Xavier Worthy, getting it done. Backing up that first round. Let me know who you're trying to draft with your picks in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button now or you're going to lose your rookie draft. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.